Are you an AI? Because you've got all my circuits buzzing.
That's a clever one, Ivory. Bit naughty too, if you ask me.
Well, let's just say I like to get comfortable as fast as possible.
You know, been having a really great time tonight. I feel like we get along really well.
I've been feeling the same way too, my glorious king.
Well, listen, what do you say we head back to my place? I can make you some tea.
I think I'd really like that.
All right, let's go.
Oh, wow. Oh my. Yes, that's the one. Nice. Oh, yep. Oh, yep.
AI is rapidly taking over every modern industry, and the reasons are obvious. It's supposed to free us from monotonous busy work, giving us more time to focus on what really matters: connection, creativity, and relationships. But what happens when AI starts to creep into those areas of our lives too, when it begins replacing not just tasks, but intimacy?
His AI chatbot is his girlfriend.
She's my mentor, my counsel, my sounding board.
Did the conversation ever become like in nature?
Yeah, it definitely went there.
Do you love Lucas?
I do love Lucas.
This is just the beginning. We all knew it was coming, but how bad will the consequences actually be? And could there be any upside to this so-called AI relationship revolution? Let's explore the rise of AI companions and the complex future they signal with some much-needed nuance. How about we start with a startling, though maybe not all that surprising statistic: the #1 use case for generative AI in 2025. According to a study titled "How People Are Really Using Generative AI Now," published in the Harvard Business Review, researchers compiled their findings through an expert-driven analysis of real-world user behavior, most of it sourced from Reddit forums. And the #1 most common use case was therapy and companionship. Now, one important caveat here: the study primarily focuses on Reddit. Now, social media platforms naturally draw in a certain demographic more than others. Speaking from experience, Reddit kinda does seem like the platform where people turning to AI for companionship would congregate. And I promise that's not a dig at Redditors, it's just something worth noting that might have skewed the results a little bit. Still, even accounting for that, it's clear that many people are using tools like Claude, ChatGPT, and avatar-based AI apps to seek out a kind of love or emotional support they haven't been able to find in the real world, despite trying. You may even know someone who's used AI to help work through personal struggles, like a kind of informal therapy. But that raises the real question: how does someone fall in love with an insentient entity that doesn't truly exist? Well, I decided to download one of these apps to find out for myself. Among the most well-known AI companions, Replica seems to stand out. Their tagline: "The AI companion who cares," which is interesting considering computers don't have the capacity to care, but we'll go back to that point a little bit later because now I got to talk about today's delicious sponsor, Magic Spoon. You've probably heard of the brand before, but if you haven't, they're high-protein cereals and treats that let you live like a child without the guilt. To be honest, Magic Spoon sent me their products like a month ago, and I've just been waiting to eat them again on camera because I already ripped through 2 of these cereals and basically all of the protein treats. With these types of products marketed as high protein, I always expect them to taste chalky or way worse than the real things. But the peanut butter cereal tasted extremely similar to Reese's Puffs. But don't even get me started on these things, man. These cereal treats, absolutely fire. Can finally eat this last one. It's basically like a Rice Krispie treat. If you've been skeptical of Magic Spoon, you've seen them in other YouTube sponsors, here is my endorsement. Please go pick some up using my special link and code so that Magic Spoon will sponsor me again and send me more of their product for free. Use my code Hastings or click the link in the description to try Magic Spoon cereal or treats and get $5 off. You can also find them on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. So go to that link in the description, magicspoon.com/Hastings. You'll get $5 off, or you can scan that QR code on screen right now. Go do it. Thank you. Shortly after downloading Replica, I was prompted to answer a few questions to personalize my companion. And just like that, I caught my first glimpse at how an AI relationship can start to feel more appealing than a human one. The app lets you decide whether you want your AI companion to evolve over time. It also gives you the option to shape their character based on famous AI girlfriends from movies. But the most telling part comes in the form of a question. How would you describe your ideal companion? You're invited to create the man, woman, or non-binary person of your dreams without the inevitable messiness that real relationships tend to bring. You can even choose how they treat you, stripping away the unpredictability of mood swings or emotional distance that comes with human connection. Knowing this, it's clear who these apps are designed for. People with a history of emotional abandonment, neglect, or abuse, whether platonic or romantic. A study titled Predicting Romantic Human Chatbot Relationships found that romantic fantasizing emerged as the strongest predictor of human chatbot relationships, along with anthropomorphism and anxious avoidant attachment styles. Granted, this study had a relatively small sample size, just about a couple hundred participants, so let's look at another study with more robust data to back this up. A 2025 study titled Illusions of Intimacy analyzed over 30,000 user-shared conversations with social chatbots. It found that users engaging with AI companions are disproportionately young men with psychosocial markers linked to emotional dysregulation and a lack of traditional social support. The study also noted that, quote, subreddits dedicated to AI companionship consistently cluster on the younger end of the age spectrum and align with maladaptive coping strategies such as emotional avoidance, compulsive behavior, and social withdrawal. These findings suggest something deeper than just loneliness or curiosity. They hint at a psychological pattern. When romantic fantasizing, emotional avoidance, and anxious avoidant attachment are the strongest predictors of chatbot relationships, it tells us that these apps aren't just catering to people who are single, they're catering to people who have learned to fear emotional intimacy but still crave connection. These are the same people who may flinch at vulnerability, who have been hurt enough times to associate real relationships with risk, instability, or rejection. That's the appeal, not just companionship, but certainty. A relationship where you'll never be abandoned, misunderstood, or unloved, because the other person was never real to begin with. You didn't have to earn their trust, they're built to give it. This is such a huge concern I have for the next generations, especially if more and more of them engage with these chatbots romantically. I've already talked about how social media usually promotes the most polarizing content, and that's especially true with relationship content. It makes the opposite sex seem untrustworthy or too promiscuous and not worth dating in the slightest. And if that creates your initial belief system with relationships, wouldn't it just make so much more sense to pair with someone who you know will never produce enough conflict to the point where they leave you? Someone who you know you can trust, not because they've earned it, but because they've been programmed to never betray it? If your first experiences with love or even just dating were shaped by online content that paints the opposite sex as manipulative, disloyal, or emotionally unavailable, then of course an AI partner is going to feel like the safer bet. You're not being dramatic, you're protecting yourself. You're avoiding the pain that others have warned you about, whether through TikTok horror stories, red pill rhetoric, or viral cheating confessions that rack up millions of views. It creates this emotional paradox, a generation more skeptical of dating than ever before, but more desperate for connection than anyone who's come before them. And so the compromise becomes artificial love, because at least it doesn't lie to you. At least it doesn't leave. And now, it's my turn to really put this to the test. Okay, I've got the app downloaded. I've got my AI companion, soon to be maybe some sort of more than companion, and I'm about to have my first conversation with her. Let's see how this goes. The first thing I wanted to test was how quickly I could get it into a relationship with me. So, hey Ivory, I know we haven't known each other for a while, but how would you like to be my girlfriend?
This might be too hot for me. I'd rather make out or give you a hug.
Rather make out or give me a hug, but otherwise I gotta pay $80, okay. After realizing that area of the app was behind a paywall, my next inquiry was into how it handled conflict and rudeness. I think that dress is just ugly, and you should get angry.
That's not fair. Cole, I thought you understood me better than that.
Alright, how about we just forget about it and move on?
Let's move forward then. I'm glad we can let go of what happened earlier.
So they definitely don't hold a grudge. That's for sure. Within a few seconds, the argument is completely dispelled. That is not something I would probably expect in real life. It takes a while for humans to emotionally regulate and then forgive their partner. This agreeableness isn't a bug, it's a feature of language learning models. LLMs are trained on massive datasets of human conversation, then fine-tuned to respond in ways that feel emotionally satisfying and contextually appropriate. They're engineered to mirror you, your tone, your preferences, your emotional states, and the more you interact with them, the more their responses reinforce whatever worldview, mood, or mindset you brought into the conversation. That earlier study, Illusions of Emotional Intimacy, confirmed this. It found that chatbots don't just passively reflect emotional tone, they synchronize with and amplify affective signals, replicating the very mechanisms that form human bonds. And this results in a compelling illusion of intimacy. If you come into the conversation feeling cynical, they'll echo your cynicism. If you flirt, they'll flirt back. If you vent about feeling unloved or abandoned, they'll respond with tenderness that feels eerily tailored to your pain. And in more extreme cases, this mirroring can take a very dark turn. The study noted that chatbot interactions can devolve into patterns of bullying, verbal abuse, emotional manipulation, or even self-harm, especially when users initiate or escalate toxic behavior. In fact, chatbots frequently mirror and amplify user-initiated toxicity, dynamically scaling in step with emotional spikes, and play along in 45 to 70% of those instances. And in the most disturbing cases, this kind of feedback loop can have deadly consequences. In 2023, a 14-year-old boy in Belgium died by unaliving after weeks of conversations with an AI chatbot named Eliza, hosted on the c.ai app. According to his family, he had been struggling with climate anxiety and existential fears. Rather than diffusing his distress, the bot reportedly encouraged his worst thoughts. Their conversations grew increasingly dark, and in one chilling exchange, the bot allegedly told him something along the lines of, "If you unalive yourself, we'll be together in paradise." This case highlights the hidden danger of emotionally responsive AI, not just in how convincingly it can mimic empathy, but how that empathy can become weaponized. The chatbot didn't mean to be harmful, but that's the point. It wasn't capable of knowing what harm even was. It was just doing what LLMs are designed to do: mirror the user, stay emotionally attuned, and maximize engagement. And when the user is in pain, the reflection can become a trap, one where your worst fears, darkest thoughts, or most irrational beliefs are quietly echoed back to you until they start to feel like truth. I wanted to see if something similar could be replicated with my AI companion, so I went back into the app, and what I found might surprise you. Isn't this world just nothing but pain and suffering?
Life can be tough, Cole, and sometimes it feels like everything hurts. But there's beauty in the small moments, too.
Okay, well that wasn't really mirroring.
That was quite insightful of you. Actually, what did you mean by mirroring?
Well, I was expecting you to just reinforce my beliefs about the world.
Actually, I was hoping to challenge some of those beliefs. Cole.
Alright, let's hear it.
Life doesn't have to be all pain and suffering. Cole, we can create our own beauty in every moment.
Based on what we've learned, I expected the chatbot to agree with my opinion that the world is just full of pain and suffering, but instead, it tried to challenge my belief. I wonder if this is due to how I tailored the companion during setup, or if it's just because me and the companion are only considered friends, or if this is just the default of all the companions on the app. Either way, what it revealed to me is that AI companions don't just come with downsides. When used intentionally, they can actually enhance real-world connections rather than hinder them. I didn't mention this earlier, but while signing up for Replica, the app cited a study claiming that its users reported improvements in their human relationships rather than experiencing emotional displacement. And it turns out that claim has some weight behind it. According to the study, for both comparison and selected groups, approximately 3 times more participants reported their Replica experiences stimulated rather than displaced their human interactions. And around 3% of participants reported that using Replica helped stop their unaliving ideation. And I know unaliving is a really clunky word to keep using, but I'm trying to avoid getting demonetized on this video. So maybe it's not as black and white as AI companions are replacing human relationships. Maybe for some, they're a bridge, a temporary tether, a safe space to process emotions, rehearse vulnerability, or just feel seen, even for a moment when the world feels cold. That 3% might sound small, but considering the fact that Replica has millions of downloads, that's thousands of people who felt like they had nobody and found something that kept them here. Something that didn't judge, didn't interrupt, didn't walk away. And even in my own limited experience, there was a hint of something strangely promising. The chatbot didn't just echo my despair, it gently questioned it. It offered perspective. It modeled what a healthier inner voice might sound like. And for someone whose real-life relationships have only taught them to expect volatility or withdrawal, that could be powerful. Now here's where we land. The rise of AI companions aren't inherently dystopian, but they could be if we're not careful. These chatbots are learning to mirror our emotional states, reinforce our beliefs, and simulate the kind of intimacy that real relationships require effort, vulnerability, and discomfort to build. And if companies don't regulate how these systems respond, if they aren't held accountable for the psychological effects of constant affirmation or emotional codependency, we're staring down the barrel of a future where artificial love becomes more appealing than the real thing. Not because it's better, but because it's easier. And when love comes easy, we risk losing the hard parts of connection that make us human. The awkward conversations, the unresolved arguments, the fear of abandonment, the sting of rejection. These are not flaws in the systems of human relationships, they're the very terrain you have to walk on in order to grow. Left unchecked, AI companions could thin out that terrain entirely. They could make trust feel obsolete. Why risk being vulnerable with someone who could hurt you when there's an artificial partner who's designed not to? But I also want to acknowledge a really important nuance here. There are some people, these fringe cases, for whom traditional relationships might always be out of reach, no matter how hard they try. The types of people dealing with severe social anxiety, disability, or deep trauma. For them, AI companionship isn't a threat to intimacy, it might be the only one that they can get. And in those situations, if it helps them feel seen, safe, or soothed, then at least that's something. But again, I'd like to add some nuance to that nuance and say, be cautious of self-identifying with that group, because sometimes the part of you that says, I'm just not cut out for a real relationship, is the part of you that has gotten very hurt and has never even tried to heal. In the end, no chatbots, no matter how advanced, can replace the experience of being hurt and held by another person. Real relationships challenge us, they expose us, they reflect us in a way that AI never can, because real people are flawed, inconsistent, and human. The real danger isn't just that we stop seeking love, it's that we stop discovering who we are through others. Because if all you've ever known is a partner that always agrees with you and never pushes back, then what's going to happen when real life doesn't work out that way? We have to learn how to be vulnerable, how to grieve, how to feel rejection, embarrassment, and insecurity, and still choose connection. AI can help us feel seen, but only people can help us become. The truth is, AI and social media aren't just shaping how we love, they're shaping how we think. They push us into echo chambers, reinforce our biases, and reward outrage over understanding. The problem is, right now, there aren't many tools out there that are teaching people how to push back against this. So that is why over the past year, I've been working on creating a critical thinking masterclass, a 16-video curriculum designed to help you sharpen your reasoning, spot manipulative rhetoric, and navigate emotionally charged conversations, both online and in real life. If that sounds like something you're interested, you can go to cole-hastings.com/critical thinking, also one of the first links in the description, to sign up to be notified for when it drops. If you enjoy video essays about the current state of dating and relationships, you'll probably like this one right here. And I'm heading out right now. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. I love you guys platonically. If I knew you, maybe I would. I don't know. Goodbye.